Everyone back to the TD SportsPress podcast. We're back here on a Monday, and we have the quarterfinal preview. We'll be going over all four matchups. We'll be going over what to look for, who my picks to win that, and then moving on from that, we'll also be talking about the big news out of Michigan, where Michigan signed Kyle Whittingham to be their head coach. We'll be talking about that. That's going to be a pretty good discussion. And last, we're going to talk about Dabo and Clemson. What's the next steps going on for Clemson? So we have a jam-packed show. Super excited to get into this. But if you guys are new to here, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're at 30 subscribers. We're trying to get to 40 subscribers by Sunday. If we can get 10 subscribers, that would be awesome. So just hit that button. It would be awesome if you guys could subscribe. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And our first matchup is the Cotton Bowl. We have Ohio State versus Miami. This is going to be a very good game. This is in the Cotton Bowl. This is a Wednesday night 5:30 kickoff. Ohio State is favored, as you guys can see on the screen, at -9.5. So let's talk about both paths and how they got here. Miami. They just beat Texas A&M on the road. They won 10-3. Defense did what they had to. Offense did enough to win the game. They put together one drive to win the game, and that's why they won. We look at Miami. Like I said, they have those two losses to Louisville and also SMU in the middle of the year. But have they gotten better? That's something that we could add on. And you look at the Texas A&M game. You could blame it a little bit on the weather. You could say, oh, the weather was not the best for throwing. It was a little windy. You could say that. So that's kind of the road that got Miami here. And now let's look at how Ohio State got to the Cotton Bowl. They had a bye. They didn't play anyone in the first round. Ohio State played Indiana in the Big Ten Championship. They got beat. They've been the number one team the entire year until that moment where Indiana beat them in the Big Ten Championship. And as you know, Ohio State, that's their only loss. They've looked pretty dominant the entire year besides that game. And yeah, so now they're going to meet 7:30 Eastern time in the Cotton Bowl, which would be a great game. So looking at these two games, the point spread is kind of misleading, I would say, -9.5. You guys might not think that. But when you guys look on paper at these two squads, talent-wise, they match up. They match up wise. I like Malachi Tony. He's a great receiver from Miami. Jeremiah Smith, he's a great receiver for Ohio State. So, I mean, in terms of like matchups on the field, we're going to get some good ones. Caleb Downs against that defense of Ohio State, Matt Patricia, that Ohio State defense is legit. And well, you could say the same thing for Miami's defense. Look what they did to Texas A&M. I think people would agree with that. So, absolutely. So the more we look at this matchup, I'm really excited to watch this play out. What is this game going to come down to for Ohio State and Miami? It's going to come down to who can score in the red zone. I truly believe that both teams. You look when Ohio State got beat, they went for it on 4th and 1 against Indiana with a little bit to go in the third quarter, if I remember right. Didn't get it. At the end of the game, they went on a drive all the way down against Indiana, missed a field goal. Miami, they missed 5 field goals, if I remember. Maybe it was 6. 5 or 6 field goals against Texas A&M. Whoever finishes drives in the red zone is going to win this football game. I think it's going to be a great football game. I think that at the end of the day, I think Miami might have the better offensive line and possibly defensive line than Ohio State. That's something to keep up with that matchup. It should be a really good matchup between these two teams. And I'm, like I said, the point differential is a little bit crazy to me at 9.5. And then you look at the quarterbacks here. Carson Beck and Julian Sand. What version of these quarterbacks are we going to get? That is a great question when you look at these teams. So Carson Beck, for example, are we going to get the guy that played against Notre Dame where he is really efficient? Are we going to get the guy that played against Louisville that had 4 interceptions? That's a question. Julian Sand going to go back to what he has been doing, or is he going to get sacked for 5 times and not been able to get the football off? So the quarterback matchup is going to be insane. It's trying to figure out how these two squads match up. So, like I said, Miami, Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. How do I think this game is going to go down? I'm going to take Ohio State to win this game, and this is why. I believe Ohio State's loss to Indiana is very similar to Michigan in 2024. I think that Ohio State, there is a bridge that is ready to burn. They want to win another national championship. If Ohio State got beat by if Ohio State beat Indiana in the Big Ten Championship, I might be leaning the other way. I just think that Ohio State, they showed some flaws. They were able to go back to the film room. They were ready. They could tape that. They watched the tape. They could see where they could get better from. I think that's what it is. Miami's going to keep this game interesting, though. I don't think this is going to be a blowout territory game. If it is, that means Ohio State wins, and they're as dominant as we think they are. Okay, but when you look at Miami, I mean, I'm excited to see what kind of Carson Beck. I mean, Carson Beck is really going to have the it factor in terms of if he's good, this game's going to be close. If not, Ohio State's going to blow him out. It's going to come down to Miami's offense. What can they do on offense? How can they get Malachi Tony the ball? What routes can they run? And can they run the football like they did against Texas A&M that last drive? That's what it's going to come down to. Ohio State's defense has been dominant. Like I said, under 17 points a game. So I am really looking forward to this matchup. That being said, I'm taking Ohio State. Like I said, it should be a great matchup between these two teams. I think Ohio State advances in the Cotton Bowl. Should be a good game. Super excited for that game Wednesday night. Mario Cristobal, I think, is an underrated coach. But I think Ryan Day's better. I'm going to trust the Buckeyes to get it done at the end of the day in the Cotton Bowl. Should be a really great game. Let me know what you think in the comments about that. So Ohio State's been great lately. So, all right, let's head to our next game, the Orange Bowl. I think this might be the best game of the whole entire slate. We have Texas Tech playing Oregon in the Orange Bowl. 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff for Oregon. I know a lot of people have been mentioning that. Just thought I would mention it as well. It might be more filled with Texas Tech fans and Oregon fans. We'll see. I'm excited to see what that looks like. So we look at this matchup-wise. Texas Tech out of the Big 12. The last time we saw them play, they beat BYU in the Big 12 championship game, and they've been dominant throughout the Big 12. Best defense on paper, or run defense in the nation. Oregon, those receivers, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. Those speed receivers, are they going to play? What do they look like healthy-wise? Are they just going to be out there being decoys? That's a lot of great questions. Well, I think Oregon has gotten better every single week since that Indiana game. So, like I said, Oregon has one loss. They got beat by Indiana, so that will be a very interesting game. And then you look at Texas Tech. Obviously, they have the one loss where their quarterback didn't play against Arizona State. So, like I said, both these teams coming into this, Oregon is favored by 2 points. I don't really look into that. This is more of a pick'em to me. In terms of, and here's why I think it's a pick'em. You look at Texas Tech. They haven't seen skill receivers or skill guys the way that Oregon has this year in the Big 12. And that's no shot at the Big 12. Big 12 is a great conference. But in terms of receivers and what Oregon can produce, I don't think Texas Tech is seeing the kind of talent that Oregon has, okay, in the secondary. Now you can say the same thing about Oregon. I think that Oregon has not seen a defensive front and linebackers that are as good as Texas Tech. I think it goes both ways. I think both these programs will get a shot of their own medicine, and it's going to be very fun to watch in this Orange Bowl. So, like I said, looking at both squads, the best running performance against Texas Tech this entire year has been Kansas State. They ran for 126 yards. The matchup-wise, this might be the stat of the game for this game, for this game, which, like I said, it's going to be a great game. So, should be a very good game. Looking at it matchup-wise, so Texas Tech and Oregon. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win this game. This is why. I think Texas Tech is for real. I don't believe they're just a paper tiger. If you guys don't know what a paper tiger is, a paper tiger who is a team that's really good on paper, but they don't prove it on the field. And everyone's going to say they played Big 12 competition. What if the Big 12 was actually that good? I don't think I've heard someone in the national media say that the Big 12 might be that good. What if the Big 12 really is that good? Well, if that's the case, we'll see Texas Tech dominate the line of scrimmage. Will Oregon try to run the ball? That's another thing. If Oregon's able to run the football, that changes the entire game. But I don't think they're going to be able to. I think that Texas Tech will be in the backfield more than people really think. And I think that they're going to cause havoc for the Ducks. And like I said, it's going to come down to, can Oregon score with those receivers? Can they create explosive plays, which I think they're number one in the country or number two, because both teams are 1 and 2 in explosive plays. So looking at it that wise, we'll definitely see. So at the end of the day, I'm going to trust Texas Tech to get the job done. Should be a great football game. That's the first of the slate on Thursday, New Year's Day. I'm going to take Texas Tech to move on to the semifinals. Wouldn't be surprised if Oregon wins this game. I'm going to trust my gut and go with the team that is more physical, and I think Texas Tech is more physical. I might be dead wrong with this game. I think Texas Tech might have the potential to win the national championship. I'm just going to leave that. If they're as good as they are on paper, are they paper tigers? We'll see. If you think they are, then you'll think Oregon will win, obviously. So I think the key stat for Oregon is if they can run more than 120 yards, they'll win the football game. I think that's the padlock stat in terms of if Oregon can figure that out, they're going to win the football game. and I think people would agree with that. So I'm going to take Texas Tech to win this game. Should be a very exciting football game. I'm super excited for this game. So absolutely. Moving on to our next game that we have here. Our next game, we have the Rose Bowl. Indiana, 7.5-point favorites against Alabama. This is going to be a different Alabama team than we have seen since midpoint. I think Alabama's going to have some people return. Indiana loses their defensive tackle and celebrating with his fans after they win the Big Ten championship. Not sure I've ever seen that before, but that's what happened. So how do I see this game going down? Let's look at both roads, how they got here. Indiana's undefeated. Best team, number one team in the country. Kirk Cignetti, greatest turnaround in sports history with a team. I'm going to put him up there. I will. I think that it might be the greatest turnaround in sports history. I'm just going to put that out there right now. And then you look at Alabama. Man, they figured out a way to win in Norman. That was huge for Alabama. Can that be the game that kind of turns them around back to midseason form? I picked Alabama to win the whole thing back in July, just so everyone is aware of that. So let's look at both these squads. We might have a rainy Rose Bowl game. I don't know. I don't remember the last time we've had. I don't remember my lifetime like a rainy Rose Bowl game. Well, normally you think of January 1st, the Rose Bowl. You think of, it's going to be 70 degrees. Grass is going to be green. We're going to see the fourth quarter with the sunset. That's when I think about the Rose Bowl. That's what I think of. I think a lot of us would agree with that. That's what we grew up on. So, how do I think this game is going to go down? We look at this game. Alabama and Indiana, their fronts. Can Alabama run the football? If Alabama can run the football, they might not just stay in the game, they might win the game. Alabama hasn't been able to run the football the entire year. I know they had like a 100-yard rusher against South Carolina. I think that's the only time that's happened the entire year. Because I remember saying if Alabama can consistently run over 100 yards, they're going to win the national championship, and they haven't been able to do that. In Indiana, they haven't played 3.5 weeks. They haven't played on this stage ever. And will Kirk Cignetti have the boys ready to go? I mean, I think that's a valid question. Are they going to be ready to go? They haven't faced the pressure they're about to face in the quarterfinals this entire year. And they're favored. So, excuse me, sorry. We look at this football game. This should be a great football game. Who do I think is going to win the Rose Bowl? I think Indiana is going to beat Alabama. I've seen some people pick Alabama. At the end of the day, I trust Kirk Cignetti and Indiana. They're more consistent than Alabama is in terms of their play. We know what we're going to get with Indiana. We never know what we're going to get with Alabama. It could be they had the worst first quarter of the entire year the last 3 games against Oklahoma, Georgia, and Auburn. They just have not looked good. But the second half against Oklahoma was different. Is that the team we're going to get? Because if you think that's the team we're going to get, I think Alabama beats Indiana. But I trust Indiana to be more consistent. I think they're going to be ready to go. They're going to be able to run the football. The receiver is going to be back. We saw that report today. He's going to be available, and he won't be limited. We'll see if he is or not. But that's something to definitely keep an eye on for sure. So I think Indiana is going to win this football game. I think it's going to be a great game. I just like matchup-wise. I like Fernando. I think he might have a big game against that Alabama defense. And yeah, I'm going to take Indiana. It just feels like the comeback story. 7.5 is a lot of points. I think these teams are way closer than 7.5, and I would not be surprised if Alabama wins this game. I got to trust Indiana. I got to trust what I've seen with my eyes. Because if Alabama goes down 17-0 to Indiana, I'm not sure they can come back from that hole like they did against Oklahoma. Because I think Indiana's a better team than Oklahoma. I don't think they'll be able to give up the lead. But I might be wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating Alabama. I don't know. But I'm going to take Indiana to win this football game. Should be a really good football game. So the Rose Bowl, I think, is going to be a classic. I'm going to take Indiana to win the football game. Should be a really good game. Super excited for this game. So with that being said, before we get to our next one, if you made it to this point, make sure you guys subscribe. We're at 30 subscribers. Just trying to get to 40 subscribers by this next Sunday. We'll just try to get 10 subscribers a week. If you guys could hit that subscribe button, it would be awesome. We're on TikTok. We're on X. So we're on all 3 platforms here. So just TD SportsPress 2025, I'm pretty sure is our handle there. So make sure you guys go and check those out. So let's move on to the last game, our last game prediction here. Ole Miss and Georgia will be playing in the Sugar Bowl in Louisiana. What a football game we're going to get. Ole Miss, I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with Ole Miss. They are Lane Kiffinless. If you guys catch my drift there, that might have been stupid. But Ole Miss, they are coming into this game after beating Tulane. And yeah, they got Pete Golding as their head coach now. They kind of have the mentality of Ole Miss versus everyone. They kind of have, I would say, the psychological advantage. Do they? We'll talk about it. Georgia, they're coming off that win against Alabama. They haven't played in 3.5 weeks. They won the SEC. Last time Georgia was in this Sugar Bowl, they got beat by Notre Dame last year. I don't think people realize that. So Georgia, at the same time, they're telling their players, it doesn't matter what we do. We got beat here last year. Are we going to get past that? That was Stetson Bennett's first start, if I remember right. So should be a crazy game when you look at this. So looking at this matchup-wise, Trinidad might be the key to this game. If Trinidad can figure it out and play like he did against Georgia, these two teams already played. And Ole Miss scored in 5 touchdowns in 5 drives against Georgia. Obviously, Georgia pulled away in the fourth quarter because Ole Miss just ran out of gas. But Trinidad could really change this game. And that was Trinidad's first start on the road in the SEC. I think he's gotten better than that. So, I mean, if that's the floor with Trinidad, what can he do again? I think this Georgia defense is better. You look at what Georgia's defense did against Alabama. They were able to get pressure on the quarterback. Georgia hasn't been able to get pressure on the quarterback for the entire year until that SEC championship game. That's why they won the SEC championship game. Their defense and their pass rush won them the game. So when you look at this, when you look at it from that standpoint, Georgia's defense is going to be better. Is Ole Miss going to be better? Well, they don't have Lane Kiffin. And then you look at it, their staff, their offensive coordinator and defense coordinator, they're going back and forth. I mean, they're working at LSU and then they're going back to Ole Miss. So how much of their head is actually in the game, I don't think people really know. I don't think they know. So who do I think is going to win the Sugar Bowl between Ole Miss and Georgia? Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite. I think Georgia's going to win this football game. And here's why. I think Georgia's defense has improved throughout the year. And I think that Gunnar Stockton. Sorry, guys, don't roast me in the comment section. Gunnar Stockton is a big-time quarterback. Like, in terms of he will play good in big games. Look what he did at Tennessee. Look at his stat line on the road in Neyland, and he went off. I think they scored 45 points, 48 points, if I remember right. Went in overtime. That was crazy. Georgia's defense, if they can get a pass rush on Trinidad, they're going to win this game. But if you don't believe in Georgia's defense and you think that Trinidad's the real deal, then Ole Miss is going to win this game. And I think that Trinidad is, but I just trust Georgia's defense's change. I think they're going to get back to the quarterback. So that should be really interesting when you look at this game. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a great matchup. Give me Georgia to win this football game. I know it might look like straight chalk. I think these have been the 4 best teams. We didn't need a 12-team playoff to tell me who the 4 best teams in the country are. We'll see if I'm right, but I think the 4 best teams have been. I mean, if you asked me 2 months ago who the 4 best teams in the country are, I'd probably say these top 4. So we'll see if my theory is still in place after this weekend because we're going to have great games. So like I said, the first round of the college football, we went 4-0. So we're 4-0 right now. I'd love to go 8-0. That would be awesome. So like I said, the fun gets started Wednesday, games through Thursday. That's where the playoffs are. And now we're going to get to some off-season news here. Kyle Whittingham, the Utah former head coach, is going to coach at Michigan. This is something that if you guys have been watching the program, I've been saying that Kyle is probably the front runner for Michigan in terms of getting the program back since he stepped down at Utah, not retired. There's a difference between the two. I know some people have said Kyle Whittingham unretired. That's not true. He never retired. So look at his posts. And, look at the wording of it. He stepped down at Utah. He didn't retire. And I think it was always between Kyle Whittingham and an interim coach for Michigan. And I think a lot of Michigan fans would agree with me at this point. I'm pretty sure I know Kalen DeVore, Dillingham, those were probably the top 2. But I would say Whittingham is still a top 3 option for Michigan. So you look at Kyle Whittingham. If you guys are not aware who Kyle Whittingham is, he's a Utah head coach. He's been the Utah head coach since 2005. He was right after Urban Meyer. So he was staffed under Urban Meyer. They won the 2008 Sugar Bowl against Alabama. They've won the Pac-12 back-to-back years, if I remember right, and then they played in the Pac-12 championship the year before that. This is all 2019 to 2022, if I remember right. So in terms of what we're going to get with with Michigan, you're going to get a program starter he's going to reset the culture at Michigan, which is needed. If you haven't been following Michigan and what happened to Sharon Moore, just go ahead and Google it. But he's going to turn the culture around. And I think that's what you want with a head coach. Is he going to be at Michigan for 20 years? No, that is not the expectation. I think that Kyle Whittingham is the bridge to the next coaching search. So is that going to be in 8 years from now? Or is that going to be 3 years from now? Is that going to be 5 years from now? I don't know. But I do know that the culture is going to change in Michigan. And Michigan's, like Kyle Whittingham, and when I think about the Michigan man, I know that's like a comment. Like Kyle Whittingham is a Michigan man in terms of the way he builds his programs. And I think he's super excited. I think he's rejuvenated. And you guys can hear it from me first. I think the offense coordinator will be the Utah offense coordinator, Jason Beck. Great offense coordinator. Look what Utah's offense did this year compared to what they did last year with Isaac Wilson. Complete night and day difference. I think the defensive coordinator will be Jay Hill, the BYU defensive coordinator. I think that will be official here soon, probably after the bowl game, is what I've been seeing and hearing. And look what BYU's defense has done the entire year. Like Kyle Whittingham has his staff is going to be amazing. And if those are who I think those are home run hires, absolute home run hires. So super excited to see what they can do at Michigan. And then we'll see what the transfer portal looks like. Can they keep Bryce Underwood? Can they keep those other ones? But in terms of Michigan, I think they're going to be consistent anywhere from, I think their floor is 8-4 and their ceiling might be the national championship. I really do believe that with the resources they have and the way Kyle Whittingham can coach and the staff. It's more what coaches can they put, what's the staff look like? Who is their defense coordinator? Who is their strength and conditioning guy? I think those are more important than just the coach itself when it comes to that. So home run hire for Michigan in terms of what they needed right now. It was a great hire for Michigan. I'm super excited to see what Kyle Whittingham can do at Michigan. Should be a great coach there. Super excited what he can do. Moving on. All right. So Clemson and Penn State played Saturday in the preseason national championship. I wasn't that high on Penn State, but yeah, Clemson was the pinstripe runner-up champion, if you will. So we look at Clemson. Can Dabo Swinney get this program turned around at Clemson? That's a real question. This was a year a lot of people thought Clemson, this was national championship or bust. They go 7-6. Dabo Swinney handpicked the talent that was on that team. And they just were not able to figure it out this year. They got beat by 2 touchdowns by LSU? Maybe it was 1 touchdown. And they just did not look like, they just have so many bad losses. So many bad losses for Clemson. And you look at Dabo, look at the comments. Can Dabo Swinney still win in this era? I think Dabo Swinney is a Hall of Fame head coach, and based off what he did in the previous generation before 2020. Can he do it? Can he win a championship now? I don't know. He handpicked the roster. I can't say that. He handpicked everyone that was going to be on the team this year. And they just couldn't get the job done. So what does it look like for Clemson going forward? I don't know. Is Dabo the answer? I don't know that anymore. If you would ask me back in July, I said, surefire, yes. Dabo Swinney is the guy for Clemson. I don't know anymore. Have the times caught up to Clemson? Yes. Can Dabo Swinney fix it? That's the question at Clemson. We do not know yet. So, very interested to see if Clemson can rebound from a disappointing year. I mean, look where in every preseason top 5, they were probably in it. I don't remember. If you didn't have it, then good for you. And I just missed it. So, yeah. I don't know if Clemson can rebound from this year. I'm very interested to see what they do. So, very interested by that. And then that brings us into our last topic because they were in the bowl games. I got this question on TikTok from a viewer that wanted this to be answered in the next podcast. Do bowl games still matter? In terms of, do they matter as much as they once did? I would say it depends on the bowl game. I was watching the Pop-Tart Bowl between BYU and Georgia Tech. What a great, I think if more bowl games did the kind of publicity that the Pop-Tart Bowl is. I mean, the Pop-Tart, they claimed as the People's National Championship. You look at all the festivities they had. You look at, I bet that's probably the number 1 most watched bowl game out of the college football playoffs. I think that bowl game still matters. I think that the bowl game people need to do a better job of marketing their bowl games. I really do believe that. So, yes, I still think bowl games do matter. If they're treated right, or even if the players are opting out, I still believe it. I mean, it's kind of like these guys' Super Bowl. In terms of you win, you're going to get a trophy. And I know some people are not determined by that. But I mean, if you're a competitor, yes, bowl games still matter. I hope more teams, keep opting into bowl games. I hope there's not a trend that Notre Dame's where Notre Dame opted out of the bowl game because they were crying because they didn't get their way in the college football playoff. It was sad to see Notre Dame just pick up their ball and go home because they didn't get their way. And that's what happened. That's truly what happened. They thought they were too good to play in a bowl game. Notre Dame thought they were too good. At the end of the day, and there's going to be Notre Dame fans that think that I'm crazy that I'm saying that, but that's honestly what I truly believe happened with Notre Dame. And Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, they're talking about, we're going to get a jump start for 2026 to win a national championship. Then why wouldn't you play in a bowl game where you get 15 to 16 practices? Like, why would you not play in a bowl game? That makes zero sense. That will give you a jump start to next year. That gets some of those freshmen and sophomores some more playing time, because I guarantee they'd have some players that would sit out. But I look at Notre Dame, like, why would you not play in a bowl game if you're trying to win a championship in 2026? I digress. And yeah, I hope nothing but best for Notre Dame. Hopefully they can get that figured out. I hope that we don't have more opt-outs out of the bowl games. I really hope. I love bowl season. So with that being said, that's the end of our podcast. Appreciate everyone that made it to the end of it. Like I said, great games all weekend. We'll be back live on YouTube on Friday. We'll go live after all the conclusions. We'll give you guys my quick takeaways of the games. Should be a great slate of games. So with that being said, have a great night. Make sure you guys check us out on X, TikTok, YouTube, subscribe here. And with that being said, have a great night.